This week on The Facts, Halifax reacts to the earthquake in Haiti.
Go time is under the microscope, a closer look at the city's transit schedules.
And Swing Your Partner, an old dance style finds a new audience.
You're watching The Facts. This week we're coming to you from NSCAD University at their Waterfront Gallery. It's Thursday, January 21st. I'm Caitlin Hansen.
And I'm Julia Cook.
The biggest story in the news is the earthquake that struck Haiti just over a week ago. On Thursday, 2 ships left Canada to help with the relief effort. Dalia Lourenco reports.
It took just 2 days. On Thursday afternoon, the crews of 2 ships, the HMCS Halifax and HMCS Athabascan, were ready to head to Haiti. Defense Minister Peter MacKay was there to wish the 500 sailors a successful mission.
I know you're about to embark on this mission. You'll be at sea for a number of days. You're prepared for that. You're experienced sailors. Your work is exceptional because of your personal commitment. Halifax, ever breathe! Have no fear!
The ships were packed with necessities like first aid kits, power generators, blankets, clothing, food, and water. The priority will be rescuing survivors, as well as getting food and water to victims. Their orders from there will be to see what else is needed. This is just the beginning of Canada's support. For The Facts, this is Dalia Lourenco.
Here at home, people are also doing their part. Last weekend, comic book fans helped donate just by going to their favorite comic book shop. Strange Adventures donated all their sales from last Sunday to the Red Cross. They raised $2,100 at stores in Halifax and Fredericton. Employees of Strange Adventures say it's the first time the store donated 100% of sales to a cause.
With all the news coverage of Haiti, we went out to find out what people think of it all.
There should be more people out there helping them out because, I mean, it's something huge that happens. It doesn't happen every day.
Obviously, you should be supporting the operations that are already going on, like the Canadian Forces and the Ottawa borders and all that stuff.
I think the best thing you can do is just stay aware, stay in the know of like the easiest ways to donate money. Like I think right now, at least through Rogers, they have a text messaging option where you can just message to like a 9-digit number and it'll tack on a $5 charge to your phone bill. So anything as easy as that, just whatever's easiest for you that gets the people what they need.
I think the best thing we could do is maybe send doctors or send humans down from Canada and maybe they can help out some way like that.
Besides private fundraising, I think it should be government initiatives, obviously. We've obviously mobilized quite a bit of money for it, but I think the more push from the public to the public sector, the government, would increase the government's contribution. Also, if the public sends a lot of money, such as private citizens, I think the government should try to match that money as well.
There are so many ways to donate. The Salvation Army is just one of the many charities who put a modern twist on how to give. You can text them. Just punch in the digits 45678, press send, and follow the cues. An extra $5 will be added to your next phone bill to help Haiti.
Planning a bus trip in Halifax can take as long as the ride itself. The transit schedules aren't always easy to figure out, but a local software developer has tried something new. Lucy Scholey reports.
If you take buses in Halifax, you probably spend hours waiting for them.
I can tell, like this is the bus terminal.
But Everett Caldwell has spent a year just studying the schedules. He's created his own Metro Transit website. It's called mtransit.ca, and it's a lot like the city's Google system.
You can find bus times on Google Maps. You go to their website, type in 2 locations, and it'll give you the best route. It's more accurate than Metro Transit's website. Their schedule only lists major bus routes, but Caldwell says his system is better than Google's.
I actually think my data is better than their data because I've compared for example, I've compared maps, and I think my bus stop location is a lot better than theirs. I've noticed differences between my go time codes on the bus stop signs and their go time codes. So I drive back and take a look at the bus stop, and sometimes I'm wrong, more often they're wrong.
Caldwell gathered all his data in person. He would walk or drive up to a bus stop, record the bus number on his GPS, and continue to the next stop. He did this for all 2,200 bus stops in the city. It took him a year. The city's public affairs manager says software developers like Caldwell can use the city's transit data, but they have to be careful.
It would be incumbent on anyone who uses that data to access that data to keep it timely. And that's what Google has to do. They have to come in and they have to access that data on a frequent basis and ensure that the data they're putting out there is correct, is as correct as it can be.
Caldwell says the Google system has problems. It's hard to tell what direction this bus is traveling. This bus stop is in the middle of the road. But a professor at Dalhousie University says homemade data might not be that reliable either.
Well, it depends on both the person doing it, the GPS itself, and the locations.
Caldwell says he's seen more traffic recently on his website, and he's going to keep updating it.
I hope it's a never-ending project. Like I said, it's a hobby, and I really do enjoy working on it, and I like the fact that more and more people are using it and finding it useful.
Down the road, Caldwell hopes to have a smartphone app for his website. For The Facts, I'm Lucy Scholey.
On Thursday, a group of university students were celebrating the new year. Again, this time it was at the Premier's office. They were trying to get Daryl Dexter to make his own New Year's resolution, to lower tuition. Our reporter John Linds was there.
3, 2, 1,
Armed with noisemakers and non-alcoholic champagne, the students made their point loud and clear.
I just hope that people will not be shut out of an education because they can't afford it.
The government has a tax rebate which saves graduates money, if they stay in Nova Scotia. But student groups say rebates don't work.
We believe that back-end tax measures are just an excuse to throw hypothetical money in a pile that doesn't get spent. It's actually a way for the government to save money. Premier
Daryl Dexter agrees the tax rebates alone aren't the solution.
I've said all along that the graduate retention rebate should not be confused with a program for access. It wasn't designed for that.
This summer, unemployment amongst Canada's youth was highest on record.
But the Canadian Federation of Students says the $14 million set aside for rebates this year should go directly to students.
And lighter wages than ever before.
It could have an immediate $250 reduction on everyone's tuition in the province, and it could increase the student grants by 10%.
Dexter has promised to bring down tuition, but with a $500 million deficit looming, the question now, is this a resolution he can afford to keep? For The Facts, I'm John Linds.
Coming up, a hairstylist with an inspiring story. Welcome back. You're watching The Facts from the Seeds Gallery by the waterfront.
As a teen, Donna Clark hated going to the salon. Now she owns one, and she helps people find the perfect do for their hair or for their wig. Sarah Plowman reports.
Donna Clark never would have guessed she'd become a hairdresser. At 13 years old, Donna developed alopecia universalis. It's a condition that causes you to lose all of your body hair. She wore a wig and a bandana to cover her baldness and painted her eyebrows with eyeliner. Dealing with it in high school, she says, was a nightmare.
It was awful. It was awful. I was always afraid someone was going to pull off my bandana or pull off the wig. I sat at the back of the class even though I was a great student and wanted to sit at the front, afraid someone would pull on it. I always felt there were people threatening all the time.
Back then, there was no internet. Donna couldn't simply just go online and Google alopecia. There may have been support groups, but she didn't know about them.
And I knew no one else that this had happened to. Not until I was 25 years old did I meet other people. So I was 10, 11 years before I knew. I thought I was the only person in the world this had happened to, and I was pretty angry.
Fast forward more than 30 years, and Donna has her own salon. Here she helps clients with their hair, or in some cases, with their wigs, like this one. Most clients, like this woman, come to Donna for a dye or a cut. But a few times a month, she works with clients who've lost their hair from cancer treatments or alopecia.
What I give them is hope that a wig, well, I show them that a wig doesn't have to look bad. If it's the right color, the right style, and cut to frame your face properly, it does never have to look like a wig. They walk in and they can't believe, for the most part, that I'm wearing a wig. So it makes them relax and know that there's a chance they're going to look good when they walk out. Yeah, and they usually do.
Donna knows it's ironic she's a hairdresser without hair, but she thinks it's the career path she was meant to take all along.
Because I have the hairdressing experience with the wearing a wig experience that come together, and like I said, maybe it wasn't fluke at all.
And for her clients with cancer or alopecia, it's comforting to know that Donna understands hair loss too. For the facts, I'm Sarah Plowman.
It may be the start of a new decade, but fashion is taking us back 50 years or so. 50s fashion and other vintage looks are becoming all the rage in clothing stores. Julia met with a woman to talk about her obsession with diner dresses.
The skirt is actually a full circle. It was kind of a pain in the arse to do the bias tape around the edge.
When Mary Otto opens her closet, she doesn't sigh that her clothes are out of date. In fact, that's exactly how she likes it.
It's pretty, it's elegant, you can dress quite sexy without having to necessarily show everything off.
Mary's been a fan of 50s fashion for the last 15 years. She says her interest in the 50s started in her preteens.
I didn't experience the 50s. I appreciate the beauty of the clothes and the cars and scooters, things like the kitchens. I think it's just, wow, that's an era that I would have liked to have lived in. Or at least I could steal all the clothes and cool things from.
And she's not the only one who's taken a trip down memory lane. Stores downtown are also swinging back to 50s style. Wendy Friedman is the manager of Biscuit General Store. They carry a line of 50s-inspired clothes. She says many customers are drawn to vintage looks.
So right now we're seeing a lot of particularly 50s and 70s inspiration in fashion right now, but in 10 years we might see a lot of 1920s inspiration, because basically there's only so many things you can do with a top, a skirt, a dress, a pair of pants, and so we're going to always see things recycled.
Wendy says different vintage looks look good on different body types.
Well, 50s is great for curvier women, which I think is wonderful, and so I love seeing the 50s influence for that reason, because then you can really celebrate curves. It's not about being waifishly thin, but it's really about showing off your curves and celebrating them.
For Mary Otto, interest in the 50s not only means showing off your curves, it's also a return to loving the traditional roles of women.
I think there are a lot of skills that have been lost, you know, baking your own bread, things like that. And I think a lot of women are starting to go back to that, going, you know, these are skills that have been lost, and relearning them. And I think that's sort of leading people into an interest in vintage clothing and vintage things.
And if you want to glam up with some 50s fashion, visit our website. You'll find a how-to video on 50s style with Mary Otto. For the facts, I'm Julia Cook. And we're not the only ones working hard. Students at the newspaper workshop have a new commenter coming out tomorrow morning.
This week, food and drink, from beer tasting to food inspection agencies. You can find the paper free in coffee shops all over the city.
It used to be part of a proper education, and now it's making a big comeback. And no, I'm not talking about charm school. Eric Leclerc went over to Dalhousie to see what's so popular.
Believe it or not, this small class is part of a boom in enrollment across the country. The subject? Latin. According to a report from the Canadian Classical Association, it seems stately columns and toga parties aren't the only things universities are learning from the ancients. Pop culture has given us Gladiator, 300, and HBO's Rome, but the classical world gave us Latin, a dead language that more than 2,500 Canadian students are keeping alive. Professor Peter O'Brien realizes some of that popularity may come from pulp culture, but he thinks there's a deeper meaning.
Media are also, I think, reflective of that search for roots and authenticity. There's a reason why people who have no knowledge of Latin want to tattoo it on their bodies or inscribe it on their wedding rings and so on. It makes even the most banal of sentiments, more real.
These students in the intermediate language class are learning how to read the ancient texts without the filter of translation. In this advanced literature class, students make the trip from Nova Scotia to the ancient world 3 times a week. Those who choose to learn Latin face a challenge 2,700 years in the making. Chris Gibson didn't mind the Hollywood interpretations and thinks there's a lot to learn in pursuing the classics.
300 is awesome. If nothing else, your grammar and vocabulary goes through the roof. And taking Latin opens you up to, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian.
If you don't want to become a classic student like Chris, you can still experience Latin online. YLE Radio 1 gives you daily news updates in the language of Caesar.
Nunti latini radiofonie finnike generalis quos vobis recitat Virpi Seppälä Pekkanen.
Pro factibus, Ericus notarius sum.
We know the name. He founded Dalhousie University and also ran the province for a number of years. But what you may not know is that Lord Dalhousie was also a passionate collector of art. This collection is now on exhibit at the Dalhousie Art Gallery. The curator there took our reporter Dalia Lourenco on a tour.
So the man you see on this portrait with the 2 dogs, Basto and Yarrow, is really Lord Dalhousie, as he would have been seen in Halifax in 1860.
It took Villeneuve 6 years to locate and restore the paintings because they were scattered throughout North America and Europe. Together, they create a visual memory for early Nova Scotia. One of the paintings in the collection shows a Micmac encampment. Villeneuve says the very theme of the painting plays an important part in Nova Scotia's history.
Micmac encampment. So it really shows the interest that Lord Dalhousie has for the First Nations back in the early 19th century. We take it for almost granted today, but it's very, very avant-garde for the time to pay attention to the First Nations. So a lot of
Here are 2 of Villeneuve's favorite paintings. He says the artwork of the 19th century tended to depict the upper classes of society. He likes these because they show the workers. And here's a sketch you may recognize. It's the original building of Dalhousie College on Grand Parade.
It was very important for him not just to establish the college, which became the university, but also to build a very good quality building on Grand Parade.
The Lord Dalhousie exhibition runs until March 7. I'm Dalia Lourenco for The Facts.
Coming up, Symphony Nova Scotia and Joanne Valletta team up for a symphony to remember. Welcome back. Symphony Nova Scotia played the Canadian debut of a controversial new symphony last Thursday. Conducting the orchestra was 2-time Grammy Award winner Joanne Valletta. Caitlin had the chance to go backstage and interview Valletta and talk to her about the music and why she thinks even the classics have room for improvement.
Joanne Valletta has been called one of the finest conductors of her generation. She has a reputation for conducting rare and often unknown works, like this one. Franz Schubert originally composed Death and the Maiden as a folk song. He then later reworked it for string quartet. It was not until the 1990s that composer Andy Stein reworked the piece for a full symphony orchestra. Many saw this decision as quite controversial. However, guest conductor Joanne Valletta with the Symphony Nova Scotia thinks that a full symphony can only improve upon Schubert's work.
Well, there are a lot of musicians, I guess this is true in all fields, who don't like things changed once they're done, and purists in a way, it's written for string quartet and it should stay for string quartet. But I've always found that composers are very open-minded people. And I have a feeling that Franz Schubert would say, yes, you know, let's try it that way. Let's see what it sounds like.
And the new arrangement does change the piece. Folletta thinks for the better.
It does expand the sound of it. You can imagine from 4 people to 37 people. All of a sudden, it's an enormous, almost terrifying piece in some ways.
Like the music she chooses to conduct, Folletta herself is a rare commodity. She began conducting in a time when it was hard to find a woman at the podium. Although that is now changing, Folletta says that her gender influences how she chooses to conduct.
You know, women, especially in my generation, were just generally more collaborative, and they worked in a more collaborative way, not in the sort of tyrannical way that conductors used to work in. And I think that that has always left me open to thinking of the orchestra in a way as a democracy where we're all making music together and we're working together, and even though I have to have the ultimate authority in a way just to make things work, I'm very open to what the musicians are thinking and feeling and how they're playing, and maybe that has shaped how I like to think about music.
Death and the Maiden with the Buffalo Philharmonic is up for a Grammy at the end of this month. For The Facts, I'm Caitlin Hansen.
And the full interview with Joanne Folletta can be found online at thefacts.wordpress.com.
Machines with minds of their own have crept into the city. Our reporter Wallis Snowdon took a look at a local art exhibit.
A new exhibit at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia is making art more interactive. Each of these pieces or exhibits require a viewer to function. We spoke with the chief curator, Sarah Fillmore, who told us more about the artist and the message he's trying to convey.
It's a collection of work that deals, it's a lot of sound work, a lot of sculptural installations that are triggered by the viewer.
Fillmore says the exhibit is about inviting people to enjoy the beauty of everyday objects, but some people question whether this kind of art has a place in a gallery. Fillmore disagrees.
I love that this show will expand the notion of art. I've had a question of whether it should be shown in a more technical setting, you know, a science center. But Jean-Pierre Gaultier is a trained artist. He's got an MFA, he's a sculptor, and he's really allowing us to show how far artists push the bounds and how they create these beautiful objects and installations from increasingly non-traditional materials.
Machines at Play runs until March 15th. For The Facts, I'm Wallis Snowdon.
An old form of community dancing is becoming popular once again, this time with a younger crowd. Smoking Contraband is a local bluegrass group. Caitlin found out how they're reintroducing Halifax to contra dancing.
Contra dancing may be 300 years old, but it's new to the crowd here tonight. The evening starts with a lesson for first-timers. Like square dancing, basic moves include do-si-dos and promenades. Shannon Lynch is the caller for the band and teaches the steps before each dance. He says that more and more people are attending their contra dances.
We've reached a maximum right now where we'll get 110, 120 people on average to a dance.
Fiddler Amy Lounder says the dances draw all types of people.
Our demographic is mostly 20 to 30-somethings. I would say 80% of our dancers. More recently, actually, it started to diversify, and we have more older folks and some kids, too.
Amy says the old-time sensibility of the dance is what attracts people.
I think that people are looking for ways of connecting in a genuine way and building community. I feel like we're feeding into that. I mean, the dances are really fun. They're super social and just a load of fun. So that's like the actual experience is captivating for people. But then the music itself, I think, has like a tradition over the last 10 years of returning into consciousness.
And she thinks the popularity of the events will only continue to grow. Shannon encourages the crowd to change partners for every reel, making the dances a great place to meet new people.
I find like contra dancing just in general, like everywhere that I've done it, people have just been so welcoming and they're just in it to have fun. They really, really enjoy it, and I find it's refreshing to be in a group that just accepts no matter who wants to do it, they're totally into it, and it's literally just to have fun. It's great. Yeah.
They put something like this in here, you know, it kind of brings everybody in the community together, and you see so many familiar faces if you come like you know, on like a monthly basis or whatever. So it's great.
And it's just getting more popular. Saturday night was the biggest turnout yet, with close to 150 dancers. Smoke and Contraband can next be seen January 30th at the North Woodside Community Centre in Dartmouth. You can go on thefacts.wordpress.com to learn more about these stories and the other news that was too recent to make it on air.
And that's it for tonight's show. Please watch us next Thursday on Eastlink TV at 7:30.
Thanks for watching. Have a great week.